I was on a road trip for work, driving on a long highway to my next hotel. It was just some cheap hotel in a town I'd never heard of, but was right off the highway from my route. I drove on this empty road for hours, only seeing another car or two every once in a while, until at some point I saw a car's headlights coming up behind me. For the next 3 hours that I drove, this car stayed behind me on this massive empty highway. When I reached the exit for the hotel, I pulled off and parked in the lot. A few seconds later, the car behind me did the same, parking on the other side of the hotel's parking lot. It was a really big coincidence for them to have been behind me for 3 hours and have the same destination as me, but I tried to not overcomplicate it and considered it some strange luck. On the outside, this hotel was not very attractive. It was old and small, and it was the only building off the highway. No other restaurants or houses or anything. I was under the impression when I booked it that it was in a town, but I guess I was wrong. I got out and grabbed my bag, then went up to the front desk inside the building. The woman at the front desk checked me in, giving me a key card to my room. For how old the place looked, both inside and out, I was half surprised they even had key card doors and not physical locks. I walked down to the end of the hallway on the first floor, going up to my room and scanning the card multiple times before it finally worked. It was old-fashioned and very small, but it looked clean and taken care of, which was all I was concerned about. I set everything down and started unpacking what I needed for the night, and just moments later, there was a knock on my door. I looked out the peephole and saw a man standing in the hallway. I'd never seen him before, and he didn't look like he worked for the hotel. I chose to ignore him and not answer the door. I don't know, it just felt like the safer option, considering the empty hotel right next to the empty highway. Whatever he wanted couldn't have been important anyways, because he didn't knock again after that. I finished up what I was doing and showered, then got in bed. I turned on the TV and watched one of the random free movies they had, then fell asleep sometime around 12 or 1 a.m. When I woke up, the room was completely dark and I was extremely tired. In the back of my head, I was hearing this beeping sound, ringing over and over as I was in between being awake and asleep. All of a sudden, my eyes widened and I snapped fully awake just as I understood what the sound was. I jumped out of bed and flicked on the lamp. The beeping stopped and was followed by footsteps sprinting down the hallway. I ran over to the door and swung it open, looking down the hall, but I must have barely missed him. A few seconds later, the woman from the front desk showed up at the end of the hallway, looking nervously down at me. I asked her if she saw anyone running, and she nodded, saying a man just ran out into the parking lot. I looked out and saw a man getting into a car, the same one that was behind me on the highway. He backed out and drove away, squeaking his tires from leaving so fast and dangerously entering back onto the highway. I asked the woman for more details, and she said he had just walked in a few minutes ago and went right down the hall, so she assumed he had a room already. Then a minute later, she saw him sprinting out. I told her that I woke up to the sound of a key card trying to unlock my door. Knowing my key card took a few tries to work, it made me terrified to think that he may have somehow had the right one and could have been a couple more attempts from entering. The fact that he even had a key card was terrifying. To keep things short, police weren't too helpful and the man was never found. I did some research on my own though, and found some people talking about fake universal key cards that can work with some random hotel doors, which was unsettling to know about.